Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings, Danny and Friends SportsWrap. It's always presented by ASFCA. Well, they can't do anything about my throat, but they can do something for your back or your knees or something else. Yes, indeed, I have a scratchy throat. I don't really feel bad, but I certainly don't sound great. Apologies for that. We'll see how we make it through. I've got a little hot water alongside, and we'll see how we crank it out here. Maybe abbreviate it just a slight bit. We don't want to annoy you with a voice like this all day long, but we've got a lot of great stuff to start with. And first of all, it starts with what was really turned out to be a very fun day at the ballpark. As I went out to the ballpark, get to go out there a couple times a homestand, and it's fun to cover the team, especially right now when we have the refreshing ability to use words like vital, big series, and walk-off, as the Royals avoided their seventh loss in their last 8 games by rallying for a 4-3 victory over the San Diego Padres. Certainly didn't look like it was going to be a winning day most of the day. The Royals offense does what they generally do, which isn't score very much against the starters. And then when the bullpen comes in, they take advantage. Sometimes it results in a victory. Sometimes it falls short. Yesterday, it walked off with a big 3-run rally. Nelson Velasquez was the key with a big triple, and Nick Lofton was able to come up with a sacrifice fly. We'll hear from both of those guys, as well as manager Matt Quatraro, as they get set for a big series. As I mentioned, big series. Yes, it's June, and the Royals are playing big series, and that will come in Cleveland against the Guardians. There's lots of storylines in this particular one. In fact, one of those main ones is the fact that the Royals got to the Padres bullpen earlier in the series, which left them light in the bullpen. We'll talk about that and much more and get the thoughts, as I mentioned, of the manager and a couple of the heroes of the day. We'll have our baseball roundup as well. It was a weekend off for the Kansas City Current, and they are still undefeated, but remarkably, they're not even in first place in the end of WSL. 2 teams are undefeated, Orlando and the Kansas City Current. We can't talk about that for Sporting Kansas City. They're last, dead last in the Western Conference. Another disappointing night at the office Saturday night. 3-1 loss to Minnesota. Peter Vermees has gone from berating his team to trying to kind of stick up for their effort. That game was pretty lopsided in my view. They went down 3-0, got a consolation goal, and really had the consolation goal was their only shot on goal. So talk a little bit about that. It was a big weekend in golf. Not that big. We've got some really big weekends coming up. But on the ladies' side, it was the U.S. Women's Open, which featured a multi-time champion winning, but a lot of other lesser lights in the mix, as in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a lot of the big names of the LPGA missed the cut or weren't in contention at the U.S. Women's Open. It was a beautiful golf course to look at. Maybe not so much to play, as only 2 players were under par all weekend long. We've got a big exhale as far as the NBA is concerned, because we've got a big wait for the NBA Finals, and we've got a little bit of other stuff to talk about, including other soccer, like the Champions League. Had some fun with that, although the result wasn't what myself and one of our leading sponsors, Easton Roofing, and Joe Spiker, his Borussia Dortmund team, fell short. All of that and a little bit more on the plate coming up. It's Monday Musings. Always brought to you by AFCA and brought to you today with a scratchy throat.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Always great to catch up with Dr. Brad Whittle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Everybody wants to make every year a great one, mentally and physically, and certainly ASFCA can help in that regard.
Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies. We're going to address the body and the mind to keep you in great shape. With winter moving into spring, we don't want to have the opportunity to get hurt or to be slow and not do what we used to do, right?
Absolutely right, and you can do that in a variety of ways.
We can. We love looking at the body and how it moves, looking at the posture and how it holds us to be strong, to be safe, and really to help us do those things we love to do.
The wide variety and range of services you can get helps in that regard at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 7 locations all around the Kansas City area. Find the one that's most convenient for you. And for more information, visit asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny.
Did you experience hail damage last year and never got the work done? Most insurance companies only give you a year to get the roof fixed, and if you don't get it done, you could possibly not be compensated in full for the replacement of your roof. If you've been procrastinating getting that damaged roof taken care of, give us a call at 913-257-5426, and we'll send out an expert to help you through the process. We're never pushy, we're just here to help. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business to Kansas City's #1 variety podcast, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you.
Welcome back. We've got the Hall's Mentholipus working. I don't know how well it's working, but at least you can hear me. And maybe you say, well, it's a different Danny Clinkscale. Maybe it's a worse Danny Clinkscale. Maybe I'd just rather hear a different version of the voice of Danny Clinkscale. Well, you've got it today, and we get to talk about something fun here in our first segment, which is the Kansas City Royals as they get the victory on Sunday. As I mentioned, it looked like it was going to be one of the days that are kind of typical for the Royals when they don't win, which is they don't score very much early on. They hang in there, they get good starting pitching, and then maybe they fall short. Well, this time they rallied, as they have often this year, often on this homestand, even though they've had their first losing week of the season. And to go this far and have their first losing week, that's pretty darn good. But nothing offensively throughout the first part of the game. But fortunately, they had Cole Reagans on the mound. He was outstanding again. It was the 8th start he's made this year, where he's gone 6 innings and allowed less than 3 runs. This time it was just 1 run. His ERA drops to 3.21. He only gave up 5 hits rather. A couple of them were, 3 of them were bloop hits, so there was really not much contact against Cole Reagans. So the Royals were in the game at 1-1. But then San Diego broke through against the bullpen. The usually more reliable Angel Zerpa was touched up for 4 straight hits, kind of like the Saturday night game where San Diego had 8 consecutive singles in the game. But the bullpen has been an issue. There's just no getting around it. The Royals bullpen has given them work at about 4.5 ERA. The starters are just over 3 after yesterday's performance by Cole Reagans. So it is an issue. It is an issue that maybe it's going to be addressed. We got an off day today. There may be reinforcements coming up from the minors. We'll have to wait and see. And so it looked like it was going to be a sweep, a disappointing day, the first sweep of the season for the Padres. And the Royals trying to avoid the sweep, and they did so, and they did so in rapid fashion in the 9th inning. And big reason was what went on Friday and Saturday, as they didn't have to face Robert Suarez or the Padres setup man as well, both of whom have ERAs under 1. Instead, they got to go against Yuki Matsui, who has had a good season, but the left-hander was the last man standing. There was nobody even warming up, and you'll hear Matt Cortoro, in response to a question from me, sort of try not to put any shade on San Diego for not even having anybody warming up. But anyway, it happened so fast. 17 pitches were all Matsui threw, and it was a ringing single by Vinny Pasquantino. It was a big triple by Nelson Velazquez, and it was a sacrifice fly for Nick Lofton. That meant that Lofton had his first walk-off winning hit of his career, and the pitcher who pitched the 9th, Will Klein, got his first victory in the major leagues. So a couple of nice things there as well. All in all, what turned out to be a wonderful day at the ballpark could have been disappointing, and that was a good feeling for the manager.
Very emotional moment for the team, I think, and just coming back, continuing to come back, didn't look good, all that, whatever narrative it is there. But really what I thought about right there was how important it was the first night and the second night to get in their bullpen again, because they didn't have Suarez or Estrada and those guys, and that's what playing every out of every game can do for you. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Matsui. He's got great stuff, but that's not how they usually finish games. And so you put people in uncomfortable spots, and sometimes it works to your advantage. And so these guys just continuing to play every out is what helped us in that situation right there.
Have you ever seen a situation, I'm sure you have, but many times where there's nobody in the bullpen warming up at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say Yeah, sure. I mean, we've been in a spot like that too, where the guy on the mound is gonna pitch, and that's not for me to figure out what they got next or whatever. But just in these 3 games, knowing that we got them to use the bullpen earlier was a huge thing for us.
Not that you haven't seen it, several examples of this several times throughout the year, but just the encouraging thing to see, especially when things haven't gone the right way the past couple of days, just to see the fight in that last inning.
Yeah, I mean, that part doesn't surprise me. I mean, these guys, they just do it every single day, right? And whether we win or lose that game right there, we were going down fighting. And, to come through is obviously a lot better mood in the clubhouse and all of that. But the at-bat that Salvi, Vinny gets started, Salvi, that's an incredible at-bat. I think it was 0-2, at least 1-2. But just to continue to grind through that at-bat and work the walk, and then, everybody did their part. Blanco got a great read on the off the bat, and the ball bounces away because Merrill covers a ton of ground. So everything's got to go right. And like Annie said, Nelly didn't break stride.
And not that anybody's at a point of pressing, but I mean, the level of excitement after being a little bit of a funk, is that part of why it felt that way to win and just push through and get this?
Yeah. I mean, because, I think somebody asked me earlier, and I can't be certain, but every one of the losses over this week, we've had the winning or tying run either on base or at the plate, whatever it is. So they are frustrating. I mean, we come here to win every day. So if you lose those games, no matter how well you play or whatever, it's not a good feeling to go home with the L. So to come out and do that and keep pushing, and when, that's a really good team, and they played really well over these 3 days, and those 3 games could have gone either way.
But to have Nelly back producing like he did maybe at the beginning of the season, even flashes of last year, what does that do for your offense to be able to pinch hit?
Oh, it's enormous. It's enormous. Whether he pinch hits or does it as a starter. I mean, and again, that swing to me right there looked a lot like last year. It wasn't all or nothing. He was under control. He was balanced. He's trying to do damage when he swings the bat, but it wasn't, I'm trying to hit this thing over the Hall of Fame. It was a controlled swing, and that's what he can do with his bat speed and his power.
Did you think of Reagan's today? What he did?
I thought he was great. I mean, we've talked about it these 3 days, how little they strike out. So they're going to challenge him. But his stuff was really good. I think just from the side, what looked like to me, he used his whole arsenal more today than he has in the last few starts. And I think you need to against really good hitting teams.
You use a win like this going into a very tough stretch now of games and just, getting added a little bit, for at least a little bit, getting out of that funk to get into this tough stretch of games?
Well, I don't know where we have an easy stretch of games, so I would start with that. I mean, this is the big leagues, and every team is trying to kick your butt every night. And I don't feel like we have easy games or hard games. So the next game is the toughest game we're going to have, and that's the kind of way I feel about it. But a win definitely makes you go home feeling a little bit better.
Ismail's had a tough couple of weeks.
Yes, he has.
Is he all right?
Yeah, he got fully evaluated for concussion. It was a non-concussive event, but he took a knee to the top of the head going pretty hard. So he's probably going to be pretty sore, but as of right now, we feel okay about where he's at.
It's not a small thing in a game like this, but Bobby coming home instead of getting 2 in that inning, I mean, is that his decision, or is that,
Yeah, I mean, it's something we work on. If the reason you play there is if that guy scalds one on one hop and the runner doesn't get a good break, you can turn 2. But anything other than that, you come home and, not everybody goes on that play either. So Bobby has to read a lot of things in the moment and make a really good throw.
What stands out about Lofton's at-bat to get the sacrifice fly? It's a really big moment.
Yeah, the first walk-off hit, first win for Will, all that too. We really feel good about the type of at-bat he puts up, regardless of whether it's versus righty or lefty. I felt really good about him putting the ball in play. I just didn't know if they were going to give him something to put in play. It's a tough spot to be in for the opposing team. Nobody out, walk a couple guys, things can go crazy. But for him to be under control enough to not try to do too much was impressive.
Whether they're hard or easy, that you do set up a big series now in June, and you didn't get to play many of those last year, that must be a great feeling.
Yeah, to be in a competitive division and get to go play